Welcome to the Retired Athlete Mentality Podcast, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories of former collegiate athletes who have transitioned from the competitive world of college sports to the grueling but rewarding world of endurance racing. Each episode, we bring on athletes who have gone from courts, fields, and tracks to marathons, triathlons, and even ultras. School's back in session. Welcome to the show. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Retired Athlete Mentality Podcast. I'm your host, Jamal from Running State University. And on this episode, we have Brittney Coronna from the United States Naval Academy, where she was a two-sport collegiate athlete at one of the most demanding colleges in the world. She ran cross country and was part of the inaugural Naval Academy varsity tennis team. After college, she continued to compete in endurance races to include the Boston Marathon and Kona Ironman World Championship, two elite races in both sports. In total, she's completed 4 70.3 Ironmans, 2 full Ironmans, and recently qualified for the USA Triathlon Nationals in the sprint and Olympic distances. Brittney, let's talk about your retired athlete mentality. How have you been?
Awesome. I've been great. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So let's get straight to it. To let everybody know, Brittney and I are actually really good friends. She went to the Naval Academy and I went to the United States Military Academy, but we both crossed paths at the University of Texas, where we went to grad school and became really good friends. So Brittney and I have known each other for about, 5 years or so?
Yeah.
5 or 6 years?
Yeah. Actually, probably 8 years since
8 years.
2018, right?
Yeah. We got there 2018. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
It's been a
thinking about
while.
graduating. Yeah, it's been a while. We've both parted our ways since graduating, but we're both doing pretty awesome things, and we'll talk about your journey as you got to where you are now. And so we'll start off with the Naval Academy, right? So you went to the Naval Academy. Can you tell me a little bit about your recruiting story?
Yeah, for sure. So started probably junior year of high school where I actually had gotten a notification from West Point to be recruited for tennis. And so my history is that I started playing tennis as I was in third grade, made it through states, went through, I was ranked nationally and internationally, and I ran at the same time with track and cross country and things like that. And honestly, got to my sophomore year of high school and I sort of burnt out from tennis and I had taken a pause, but I still held my ranking. And so West Point had actually reached out to me first. It was like, "Hey, you interested in the tennis team?" And I was like, at that point, it's like, "Man, I don't want anything to do with tennis. I just wanted to, get away as far as possible as I could from it." And but I was like, you know what? Like the service academy is interesting. I hadn't known much about them. I don't have, other members in the military, my family. And so I started looking at the Naval Academy too. And I was like, oh, what does this place have to offer? Well, I ended up going to summer seminar, which is a program, as you know, between junior and senior year.
Yeah.
I had met the cross country coach at the time. She had followed me in, which unbeknowingly to me, I didn't know she knew about me, but actually approached me during summer seminar. I was like, "Hey, I know you're in cross country in Texas. You're pretty good, so on and so forth." And the conversation continued. And one, I fell in love with the Naval Academy that summer. And two, I ended up doing pretty well in the fall of my senior year for cross country and got a recruiting letter, went through the normal, congressman, senator nomination process. Only applied to that school, to the Naval Academy, put all my chips in one basket, hoping cross country would get me in the door because I definitely didn't have the SAT and ACT scores to get it. Uh, but yeah, no, and that's how I got in and started running.
Yeah, we messed up with coming after you for tennis, and we should have come
Yeah.
for you for cross country.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I think we would have been there at the same time because you graduated in
11.
11 or so.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we would have
Yeah,
graduated together, but we crossed later in life.
we did. We did. I did run at West Point. It was my freshman year up that
Yeah,
dang ski hill, which was
yeah,
terrible. So, yeah.
yeah. I tried to avoid it.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. So when you got to the Naval Academy, what kind of mindset did you have? Were you, you mentioned like you didn't have the best SAT scores, but you still had, good enough scores to get to West Point.
Yeah.
What was that mindset for you when you got there?
Yeah, I think, at first, being a fresh 18-year-old going into a military academy, my mindset was, let's just experience as much as I can and kind of, you're told what to do, right? The first 8, 10 weeks that you're there,
Yeah.
you don't really have to think much, to be quite honest, and just kind of roll with the flow and what you're being told. So I sort of, to myself, I was like, hey, go in with an open mindset, do the best you can, both physically and mentally, and take lead based off of what folks are doing and what you see around you from the upperclassmen that you really kind of respect throughout the process and learn from them and take that through my freshman year. But, I played a lot of sports in my early life. I played soccer, softball, everything you can think of except for basketball, probably because I'm all of 5'2".
Yeah.
It wasn't the sport for me or volleyball, but I learned a lot from being, both team and individual sport that I felt helped me prepare for a very challenging and, in a sense, team environment, especially when you're a plebe. You really work together as a unit. And so I took a lot of the learnings that I had through my athletic, career as a, you know, youth, if you will, and took that into it while just trying to experience as much as I could. So turned out all right.
Yeah, yeah. They say the first year is the toughest, and if you make it through that, your chances of getting through are
Yeah,
usually pretty good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll say that I'm sure everybody has it. There are times when you're like, man, I don't know if I should be here or what am I doing? Or you're talking
Yeah,
to a friend that's going to a party, experiencing just freedom for the first time at 18, and here you are stuck on campus and wearing a uniform and running around the
yeah,
hallway and yeah. But man, I would do, people ask me like, would you do it all over again? I would in a heartbeat.
yeah.
I'd do it all over
Absolutely.
again.
And so you said you did cross country and you played tennis.
Yep.
What were the years that you did that? When did the inaugural season come into play?
Yeah. So let's see. So I ran freshman, sophomore year, and we had the club team that was still, the club team had been around for a
Hmm.
while, but we had gotten brand new coaches that came in to start up the varsity team. They came in my sophomore year, so springtime, my sophomore year after cross country was done. One of the reasons why it actually stopped running was because I continuously kept getting hurt with cross
Mm,
country and I ran some indoor track too. And it actually flip-flopped for me, the things that I was feeling for tennis back freshman, sophomore year in high school. I started feeling for cross country and there were flyers. I remember my sophomore year of like, hey, if you've ever played tennis before, tennis is going varsity. And I was like, call my parents and like, hey, can you send me my rackets? And they're like, what? Like, you want your rackets? I was like, yeah, I just got them restrung in Annapolis. Walked on the tennis court. It was like, yeah, it's probably April or so, my sophomore year. And the coaches, I hit a couple balls. I hadn't played in 4 years, and the coaches walked up to me and they were like, "Do you play tennis before?" And like competitive. I was like, "Yeah." And then,
yeah.
told them who I was, and they looked me up, and I still like had, older rankings, and they're like, "Oh shit, this is awesome."
Look who we found.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how it started, and we went varsity my junior year, which was the first full recruiting year, where they had actually started recruiting like blue chip athletes from high
Yeah.
school. So I played number one on both singles and doubles, which was great. And then yeah, I played West Point, got kicked junior year, got kicked senior year, and now we're winning the Patriot League and going to nationals. So they've done something right since then.
Yeah, look at that. That
Yeah.
was that was you that initiated that
Yeah,
that
right.
journey. That journey to nationals.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a story.
Yeah, I could imagine, coming to the tennis team and then being like, "Yeah, I'm so and so," and then them going back and like typing your name in and being like,
Yeah.
"Oh, look at who we found."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It was
crazy.
pretty wild. Yeah.
What what was the mix of like athletes? Was it like club level and then like you? Or, like where was that what was that scale?
It was pretty much club level and folks that had played, like high school tennis.
Yeah.
And then there was me. And then after the first recruiting year, scooted back on the lineup because I
Yeah.
was not nearly as competitive. But
Yeah.
that first year, it was, yeah, me and then everybody else.
Yeah. Well, that's good. At least the first year of recruiting, it brought the team up a little bit.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
at least
Yeah.
from a club to an NCAA team.
Yeah. It was challenging for sure because man, we got our butts kicked, that first year. And
Yeah, all the time.
yeah, yeah. And I was still like relearning in a way how to
Yeah.
be competitive again. But man, it was fun. It's a good time.
Yeah, would you say like how did the competitiveness differ from like cross country and tennis? Was it just learning how to just technically be better at tennis?
Yeah, I'd say, playing Division 1 tennis, there's a lot more power. There's a lot more finesse to the game. There's a lot more mental side of it than even like high school national international competition, because a lot of the Division 1 players are actually like huge international players,
Right.
yeah, outside the academy and like generally probably the Patriot League schools. For running though, like it was interesting. I remember going to an indoor track meet and I think I ran like a 5:04 or 5:05 mile.
Mm,
That didn't even get me in like the top 10,
yeah.
and it was just like I couldn't even compete on an individual level in a way with track specifically, but cross country,
Hmm.
you've got a team and you all
Yeah.
score points and stuff like that. So that was still fun.
Hmm.
But, I think for tennis, it was relearning a little bit, but it was quick enough to where like I felt like I was somewhat competitive quicker than I was within like the track field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. A pretty awesome story to be on the inaugural varsity team. We actually had the same thing happen to us while I was there, but it was for our women's lacrosse team.
Oh,
And
nice.
now they're just amazing, which
Yeah.
is super cool to see it go from like playing on a like a recreational
Right?
grass field to now playing in the stadium where the football team plays and it's super cool to see that.
Yeah.
And I love seeing how the teams grow from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the eighth wing courts, they had holes and cracks, and
Yeah.
the guys team had been
Yeah.
Division 1 for a while, so they got all
Hmm.
the better courts. Not the case anymore. So,
That's good.
yeah.
And so after you graduated, you commissioned as a Marine,
Mhm.
correct?
That's
So
right.
you commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Navy as a Marine.
Mhm.
Did I say that right?
Yes,
In the
I'd
Marine
say
Corps.
in the Marine Corps underneath the
Yeah, in the Marine
Department of the
Corps.
Navy.
Yes, correct. You have to correct me on my
There you go.
terminology. And so how long did it take you after graduating to get back into the world of endurance? Because you said you kind of lost the love for cross
Yeah.
country. How long did that take you to get back into it?
I'd say so. I got out to San Diego. I graduated 2011, went to TBS 2012, got to my first duty station in San Diego, February, March of 2013. And I think the first marathon I ran was maybe like 6 months later. It was San Diego Marathon because I qualified for Boston through the San Diego Marathon.
Oh, nice.
You know, when I got to San Diego has such a honestly endurance. I know when we get to triathlon stuff, like I'll bring this up,
Yeah.
but has such an endurance culture there that it was easy for me to find some love in running again.
Yeah.
And I realized very quickly through the challenges that I was facing as a brand new second lieutenant in the Marine Corps, I realized very quickly that running was not only like fun for me again, but it was a huge outlet for me to deal with some of those challenges. And I
Yeah.
craved that outlet so much that I was like, yeah, I'll just get up and keep running. So it was super helpful. And yeah, the people again, San Diego is such an endurance based culture. So it didn't take me long to get back into running. It was pretty quick once I got there.
Yeah, I'm surprised and kind of not surprised that San Diego is a big endurance area. You hear a lot about, you actually hear a lot about like Austin, New York, LA,
Mm.
Boston
Hmm.
as big running cities, but San Diego seems like a perfect city for that with the weather always being great. So it's surprising that I don't see more, of like San Diego on the map of like a running city.
Yeah. It's because of yeah, it's a good point. I mean, there's so much trail out there too,
Mm,
like right on the coast. Yeah. But I do feel like there are, at least from like maybe not running, but triathlon wise, within the triathlon space, I mean, people think of San Diego and Arizona actually as like the top two hubs for
oh,
like
really?
endurance triathlon. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so you said 6 months after you graduated, you ran your first marathon that qualified you for Boston.
Yep.
Did you run the next Boston that following year?
I ran it the year after the bombing.
Oh,
Yeah, that was
wow.
20, I think the bombing was 2013. I
Yeah.
ran it 2014. I think
Wow.
that's right.
That must have been pretty wild.
It's wild. It was
Do you
wild.
want,
I
do you have any
remember
stories?
for Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember it was actually kind of a blur in a
Mm,
way because there was so much security, so
yeah.
much checks, and it was like rush, 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 get you on the bus, get you through
Hmm.
security, and
Yeah.
then you're standing in your corral and the gun goes off. And what's interesting about Boston is you're running with the same timed people. So you're
Yeah.
never really passing or going backwards. You're all just kind
Hmm.
of running as a
Straight
crew.
distance. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's always packed, and then the sides are always packed. My poor
Hmm.
dad was trying to get to the finish line, and that was like, completely
Yeah.
blocked off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's such an awesome experience, and it's a tough course.
Yeah.
Heartbreak Hill is no joke.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. I would do it again if I can.
Yeah. I've spectated Boston a couple times, and obviously the marathon is hard, but spectating the Boston Marathon is also hard because it's point to point. And
Yeah.
so, you're trying to find your person at like two or three spots along the way, and then like you get to the finish line and it's just packed.
Yeah.
People are climbing trees, people are on top of buildings just trying to see what they can see, and it's such a cool environment. And I can't imagine how cool it is running.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Yeah. It was perfect weather too. I remember folks bundled up and
Mm,
we all thought it was going to get super warm too, so they were like,
yeah.
"Hey, shed all your stuff." But it ended up
Yeah.
staying like nice and consistent throughout the day. So I
Oh,
remember
that's
like the
great.
weather being super nice, but it's an amazing experience and environment.
Yeah. And when did you dabble into triathlons and Ironman?
Shortly thereafter, yeah. I mean, at the time, I was in a friend group that ran actually like was some of the officers, not Marine Corps or Navy, but held officer positions on the San Diego Triathlon Club. So just by like the nature of being around them and hanging out with them all the time, I just started getting into biking and swimming as well.
Mm,
And I'd actually signed up for Ironman 70.3 Lake Tahoe.
Mm.
And that was after maybe 6, 8 months of recreational biking and swimming. And we went there, and that was also I don't know if you remember the Truckee fire, where someone had set off a fire in Truckee.
That sounds familiar. I know Truckee because I've been to Truckee. I visited, but I think it
Yeah.
sounds familiar.
Yeah, so long story short, that race ended up getting canceled because of the smoke.
Mm.
It was
Yeah.
too thick, so too hazardous for the athletes. So we were like, no, what are we gonna do with the training? And there was a 70.3 Super Frog in Coronado, California,
Mm.
so on Seal Beach, and
Yep.
it was
Nice.
the worst to this day, it's the worst race I've ever done, like the most painful.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna die in the swim with like 6 foot
Yeah.
waves.
Yeah.
The bike was terrible in Coronado. The wind was coming at you both directions.
Yeah.
I had no aero bars. I was riding a rinky dink road bike.
Nice.
Uh, but little did we know that as a military athlete, you could qualify for Kona through that race.
Mm.
So I came across the finish line, and 10 minutes later, they were like, "Hey, you qualified for Kona." And I'm like, "Kona, like the Ironman Kona,
What?
like the full Ironman?" And they were like, "Yeah, you have to pay $1,000 right now, but do you want the
What?
spot?" So, okay, sure, I
Sure.
guess, right?
You take my money.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's $1,000, and I had signed up for an Ironman, and I think that was maybe 9 or 10 months at the time.
Yeah.
So, and it happened to be Kona, and that's how my Ironman journey got born.
Yeah. It was forced upon you.
It was forced upon me, yeah. Everybody was
Yeah.
like, "You have to take the slot. You have no idea."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "I don't want to do a full Ironman. How did I like people wait 20, 30 years to qualify for Kona?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe I should do a full, I don't know, like qualify a little better.
Yeah.
But everyone's like, "No, you gotta do it." And I was like, "All right." So yeah,
And how did you do at Kona?
I did well. That was the best race of my life.
That's awesome.
I think in part because that was my first race, and I truly got or Ironman, and I truly got to the start line, and I was like, I have no idea if I'm gonna finish. I've never done this before. I've
Yeah.
only swam 2.4 miles twice or 3 times at that point in the ocean. I had no idea what it was gonna be like to string all 3 of those distances together. I tell people during those 13 hours that I was out there, it was time had actually slowed down so much for me, where it
Mm.
was like just focusing on the next step or the next, 20 meters, whatever it was, kept me so present and enjoying just the environment and everybody cheering for you and the pain that you were going through. Like it was just a phenomenal experience. But yeah, it was nerve-wracking. I think I ended up placing maybe second or third in the military division for women.
Wow.
So turned out pretty well, but it was petrifying at first when
Yeah.
you get up to the start line. You're like, man, I have no idea if I'm going to finish this thing. I've never done it before, but it was cool. I finished.
Yeah. That's wild. I've felt that feeling at a marathon where I battled some things, but I felt like, I might not make it through this. But I could imagine that, you know, when you add a swim and a bike, that's, tripled because of what you're about to go through.
Yeah. What's amazing is, and I'm sure you've experienced this in races, but the people around you when you're going through something, I and they know they can feel it, or they run by you and they see you walking or dragging your feet or something. More oftentimes than not, someone will say like, "Keep going, you got
Yeah.
this." And just you'll probably never talk to them again. You never talked to them before. But in that very moment, those words mean so much to you. And there's not a lot of things in your life that you can experience something like that, which I find tremendously cool.
Yeah, I need to do a better job. I'm always afraid to like bother somebody, and I know that if I say something,
Yeah.
I'll help them like mentally because it's happened to me like at least every race I've done where someone's like, we're at like mile 10 of a half marathon and someone's like, you got this, let's go. And then I just like, I turn
Yeah.
it up and I'm gone. And I know I have to do that for somebody else,
Yeah.
but I do a
Yeah.
bad job of it.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, you never know. Someone might bark your head off if they're in severe pain. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And so you did Kona. Did you do triathlons at the Olympic distance in between that? Or like when did you start doing the shorter stuff to then lead you to qualify for the triathlon nationals?
yeah. So actually, I kept doing 70.3s, took a break a little bit in business school. And I actually qualified for the Olympic and sprint distance through my 70.3 in October of this past year, so through Waco. It was funny because I was talking to my coach. This is the first time I used a coach for an actual coach for a race and not like AI. I was talking to him and when I got the notification, I was like, man, I had no idea that 70.3s qualified for nationals. And I guess what they do is they kind of look at your aggregate time, but then also look at your individual splits across each distance or across each discipline, and then do some sort of calculation. And then we'll kind of just determine whether or not you can qualify. So it was pretty cool. I was pretty excited. I was about to sign up, and then obviously I can't race in August, but
Yeah.
that's kind of how the qualification went.
Yeah. And so do you want to tell us why you can't race in August?
Sure. Aaron and I are expecting our first little one in
Yeah.
September. Uh, gonna be a little boy. He's kicking right now, so he must know that I'm
Oh,
talking
that's so
about him.
sweet. I'm
Uh,
gonna try not to cry on this podcast.
it's okay. You get a pass.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so unfortunately, any racing for me this year is kind of off. I did do a race, so let's see, maybe 2 months ago when I was
Mm,
12 weeks, did a half
yeah.
marathon, but yeah, kind of taking it easy since then.
That's good. We want you to
Yeah.
take it easy, do what you can, stay safe. But what I want to talk about next is kind of that training mindset pre-pregnancy and then post-pregnancy.
Yeah.
So pre-pregnancy, you just mentioned like you've been training for all of these races and then you decided to get a coach. What does training look like pre-pregnancy for you, on a race to race basis?
Yeah, so for the Waco race, I was pretty dialed in about 6 months out. So I was doing consistently probably 2 to 3 swims a week, 2 to 3 bikes a week, and then maybe 2 runs. I was coming off an injury, so he didn't want to push running, and I've obviously got a lot of baseline underneath me. So biking and swimming was kind of my focus. But a lot of it because I was trying to push the time. For me, a lot of it was interval work, threshold work to try and get faster, which obviously is stuff I'm not quite doing now. So a lot more, yeah, a lot more mileage, a lot more threshold work, uh, which hopefully I plan to get back to in a year.
Yeah, and so, you're how far along are you right now?
22 weeks.
22 weeks. And so,
Yeah.
you're still, I've seen, my wife have two kids and I've seen her train during that. What does that look like for you now while you're pregnant?
Yeah, shorter sessions for sure. Still probably running twice a week, swimming twice a week, a little more strength, like hip work, and yeah, stationary biking, unfortunately, which kind of sucks. 'Cause getting out with biking is like the big thing. But yeah, my 2 3 hour sessions are now 30 minutes to an hour, keeping heart rate within, I'll call it the 140, 150 range, but still pushing it, in shorter segments. But Yeah, a lot less intense and more just sustainment.
Yeah, and so, during pregnancy, there's different phases of it, There's the
Mhm.
the beginning, which is pretty tough, and, you get to a good place, and then, you get to a place where you're just big, And so are you how are you telling yourself, like, what you can do, and how are you keeping yourself at a place where you're keeping everything, like, safe?
Yeah, when I started reading into how people train throughout pregnancy, people would always say, or what I would read is like, hey, your body will tell you when to
Mm.
stop or when to chill. And I'm like, that's going to be interesting for me because I can kind of tell my body, shut up and keep
Yeah.
going. But it's funny, I'd say over the past, really recently, over the past couple of weeks, as I've started to get bigger too, there is a point in time during an easy run where I'm like, you know what? It's okay to walk for, whatever, 5 minutes. Or if I
Mhm.
feel it's just weird, the body just kind of lets you know, like, you need to take a chill pill.
Yeah.
And I've had to be okay with saying, I don't need to push myself. It's okay to take it easy. And that's a different mentality than I've had before. But just seeing the bigger picture and kind of, you know, knowing I'm doing two things here. I'm working out, but I'm also growing a human. So
Yeah.
there's a lot going on. So yeah, I think it's just being really cognizant of what my body's telling me and to being okay with taking it easy.
Yeah, how hard was that? Because I know you, and I know that, you're a very competitive person,
Yeah.
and like you said, you'll tell your body to shut up when it's telling you to stop. How hard was it to really take a step back and be like, "You know what?
Yeah.
Walking is okay."
I'll say if I hadn't had my coach for Waco,
Mm,
it would have been much harder because he incorporated a part of training that I had never done before. And it was run long distance based off of your heart rate. And if your heart rate is sitting at, he's like, I want your heart rate at 140. If that means you have to run a 10:30 mile or 11-minute mile, that's what you're going to do. And the first month, I was like kicking and screaming. I'm like, this is terrible. I
yeah,
mean, this is absolutely nuts. Like,
yeah,
this is so boring. I'm frustrated. I want to go my
yeah,
normal pace. Um, but I learned to trust the process. I learned to
yeah,
be okay with not having to push myself, right? And to be
mhm,
honest, it paid off tremendously. I didn't get hurt. I still
yeah,
ran. I got faster. And I took that into this pregnancy and like, if I hadn't had that experience or that exposure to a different type of, I don't know if you want to call it easier training, um, I think backing off would have been much harder, but he kind of forced me to do it. So kind of knew what was coming.
yeah. It's difficult. Like every time I find myself in an off season where I'm not in a training block, I'll try that. I'll be like, I don't care how slow I go, I just want to keep my heart rate at a low level. And
Yeah.
then I get into the training block and I'm like, screw this. It's
It's
time.
terrible.
It's time. I gotta go.
Yeah.
Um and so it's funny that, really consciously saying like, okay, heart rate is what's gonna be the dictator for this
Yeah.
workout. It just mentally changes your thought process. And it's hard to trust the process. I tell myself, like, trust the process all the time because, like, your training is gonna get you through that marathon even though you haven't done that distance before. And so,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it's the same for triathlon. You haven't swam that far, you haven't biked that far. And so you just have to trust the process because if you don't, you're just gonna go out there and go too hard and not have a good result.
Totally. Totally. It is a bit of like a blind feeling in a way. You're like, man, I really hope all this works out. 9 times out of 10, it does. So
Yeah, yeah,
there's truth to it.
yeah. And so what does so you mentioned you hope to get back to
Mm,
training. do you hope to get back to where you were prior to being pregnant? And do you hope to get back to a place where you're competing at nationals?
Yeah, for sure. I am gonna give myself some space. I have no idea how, hopefully my labor and delivery is easy and no complications. But I know, there's a lot going on with the body and baby thereafter. So yeah, I eventually want to get back to it. I'm not in any rush to. I have my eyes set on doing Waco 70.3, which is in October. So doing that next year, that would be about a year postpartum. That might just be like an introduction back into the sport in a way, and then kind of ramp back up. But goal is to eventually I'd like to requalify for Kona through an actual Ironman, and then hopefully through one of the 70.3s again, qualify for nationals in the future as well. So no sign of stopping for me, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
in no
definitely
rush.
not.
I'm in no rush to get back to it either.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a question that I knew the answer to, but we want the people to know that you're
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
back.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. And so the tricky thing about coming back from, a pregnancy and then going back into, your life as a mom, going back into work is that you're now balancing, one more huge thing. Do you feel that your training is going to look different? What steps do you feel you're going to need to take to
Yeah,
adjust that life?
I think it'll look different for sure. I think instead of up until this point, I've actually been able to structure my day in a way around training because I do work from home. I do have some flexibility. I am on a lot of client calls throughout the day. But largely speaking, like if I need to throw in like a 30-minute strength session, I can get my longer workouts in at the front or the end. I doubt that'll be the same once the little one is here. And so I think uh, I think from a training perspective, there's also ways that you can focus in on getting the maximum value of what you need in ways to, especially for triathlon. That might mean you're doing one hard swim, a week, and that's all you're doing, and you're going to focus on building base for the bike. I think there are
Mm,
different ways to structure things where you can get your biggest bang for your buck, and I think that's what I'm going to have to do. To kind of concede in some places to get, better value in others. So yeah, we'll see, but I definitely think it'll look different.
yeah, it's a great approach to have. It's going to be different. Life with kids is different, and sacrifices are made, and
Yep.
so it'll be interesting. And I should bring you back on in a year
Yeah,
prior to
yeah, that'd be
prior
great.
prior to Kona, or prior
Yeah,
to Waco, so we
yeah,
can talk about, post pregnancy training and get an update on that.
yeah. It could be like, hey, I'm riding my bike for the first time and the race is in a week.
Yeah, yeah. Please don't do that.
Yeah, no, I'll try not to. But yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be good.
and so kind of a open ended question, like what has been the biggest surprise that you've seen in this endurance training world, whether it's pre pregnancy or post pregnancy?
Yeah, I think it's the aspect of actually aging within the sport. 10 years ago, I could go out, have 4 beers, pick up the next
Yeah,
day and go run a 6, 7 minute mile for, I don't know, 10 miles and be fine. And I think over the past 5 or 6 years within my endurance training, I have gotten hurt and it's taken me months to come back from it.
yeah.
And I'm sort of not okay with that. I'm like, you know what? If I have who is right, if I have to slow down my training or if I have to adjust to have longevity in this sport because I need it, I love it, it's part of my life, it's part of who I am,
Hmm.
then I'm going to adjust my training to to be able to support that longevity. And surprisingly enough, where we were talking about this earlier, where 10 years ago, there's no way I'd back off a training block that I knew I had to get done, but I felt, kind of shitty about. Now I'll back off knowing like, hey, I want to do this in 10 years.
Hmm.
And I'm surprisingly okay with backing off on it. Yeah, it's a different environment as you get older. I hate to see when some people just quit because of the age. It's
Yeah.
like, man, just try some adjustments to it, and if you truly like love the sport and love what it gives you, you'll find a way to keep going.
Yeah, that's so true to myself right now. I just finished getting through like a 6 week,
Mm,
who knows what it was in my foot. But right now my miles are like in between the tens to twenties,
yeah,
and maybe you get to 25, but it's because I know that if I want this to really go away and really be fully ready, that I'll have to slowly get back to where I was
yeah,
running 30, 40, 50 miles a week.
yeah, yeah. It's worth it.
Yeah, I'll just enjoy the nice 3 mile runs every other day and call it
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Hey, it gives you time to take in things that you might not see when you're trying to get in 50 miles a week.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely getting more sleep.
Yeah, yeah. Gotta take it, man. Gotta take it.
Yeah, yeah. And so, we've talked a little bit about it, but you have a full-time job, you're about to have a kid. What things are you planning to do to balance all of those things? And what do you do now to help yourself balance those things?
Yeah, it's a good question. I have struggled a bit with balance. I'm sure a lot of people do. Um, right now I do try to prioritize things that make me happy and relaxed. And a lot of that is running or doing some sort of training. Maybe it's not going out for an hour-long run, but maybe it's 15 minutes. Or maybe it's doing a quick like yoga, stretching or something to just get away. And I notice for me at least, if I can fit in 15 to 30 minutes of something that I love throughout the day, that brings me a scale that's balanced regardless of what else is other things that are going on in my life. Uh, my work schedule can be like yesterday, I think I had like 7.5 hours of virtual calls, and
Hmm.
it's exhausting. But
Yeah.
to just spend the last thing I want to do is, do 30 minutes of stretching after. But once I do it, I feel so much more grounded. And so I think having that mindset, I don't know, once the kid comes along, if I'll still want to do, or if that same thing will still give me the balance that I crave. Or maybe it's
Hmm.
going out for a walk, whatever it might be. But it's really honing in and finding that activity that gives me that balance scale to start with. And I center everything else around that. So that's kind of what my plan is. Who knows if it'll go out the door or not. But yeah, we'll see. Balance is always hard. I think it always ebbs and flows too throughout the seasons based off of what's going on in your life, family or external factors that you can't control. Sometimes it just gets a lot to handle and it's hard to balance it out. But it's what I do currently.
Yeah, and so you've lived a number of different lives, from a Marine officer, endurance runner,
Hmm.
full-time worker. What piece of advice would you give to anybody that is going into the endurance world, whether it's, marathon, triathlons, Olympic triathlons, Ironmans? What
Yeah.
advice would you give?
Yeah. I mean, I think find the part of the sport that makes you happy and hold on to it, whether that be community based, and you're going out with run clubs and that's what you enjoy, and who cares about how fast you're going. Or maybe you're the opposite, right? Maybe you do want to just win races, and that's your goal. But I think a lot of people tend to get into sports these days because of trends, that are going on in the world. And then they either get hurt or they lose interest quickly, or they go in and they find something they're not quite happy with or looking for. So I say, like, if you're getting into an endurance sport, have fun with it, find the part of the sport that you like the most about it and hold on to it and try and maximize the value, because that's ultimately what will translate into longevity in your participation in that sport. And who knows, maybe other doors will open along the way, you find something else you like and you take a different direction. But yeah, I think finding that part is really the best part in my mind once you get into it.
Yeah, definitely. That's such a great piece of advice. Running these distances wasn't something that I did right away after college, and I kind of found it later on down the line, but it's something that now I feel like I need to hold on to and I want to hold on to because it just makes me feel good doing something as easy as like just going for a run after you've been off for 6 weeks.
Mhm.
It feels good. So that's
Mhm.
definitely a great piece of advice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great sport, regardless of what part of the endurance world you get into. It can teach you a lot of things.
Yeah. And so as we wrap it up, I know that you're on social media, you're on Instagram, but
Yep.
you're not like sharing your Instagram or anything like that. But is there anything that you want to highlight, or you can highlight your own Instagram? I know I see you pop up on my Instagram when Texas is winning like a football
Yeah.
game, and that's about it.
Yeah, and who knows if the
Uh,
Bruins win tonight, I'll
yeah,
post
yeah.
about that.
There you
Yeah,
go.
no, I'm happy to share it. It's my last name, Corona,
Hmm.
the letter B, the number 8, Corona bait, if you will, on on Instagram. But yeah, I did post leading up to Waco a couple
Yeah,
training blocks, here and there, and then post Waco. And I think one thing that I really want to do is like post pictures of the baby while working out too,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm excited to get him involved. And, obviously that's just going to be kind of sitting and watching me do things for 5 minutes as
Yeah,
I
for a
run
little
around,
while. Yeah,
but yeah, yeah, that's probably where I'm most active is on Instagram.
yeah.
Hmm.
I think I remember at your wedding, you were getting ready for a race. Was that
That was right after I got married, the week after Ironman 70.3 North Carolina.
okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, pre-wedding
Another
stuff
a different race.
was pre was pre-training for, yeah,
Yeah.
North Carolina.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Brittany, thank you so much for coming on. This has been an
Thank
amazing
you.
conversation. I know that you will do great as a mom, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the awesome things that, you do as a mom while training, while being a mom, while working and doing it all. So I appreciate you coming on, and we will talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on. This was awesome.